And so I don't look at me as being the Greg Garrett that some people might see, that's all powerful, rich, or successful. I still realize I'm that kid that was breaking and entering in boats and cars, and that stood before Judge Durden when I was 15 years old for him to decide whether I was going to go to reform school or not.
Welcome to the show. We in the mix with B2 and Markeith, straight out of Virginia. And this is the platform for the people.
Yes, sir. Once again, we have a very powerful and a young man who's doing great things, been doing great things in our community and beyond for years. We have nothing more. I mean, so much we can say about him, but his resume speaks for himself with all the great work that he won't tell you that he does, but we see the work. And that's Brother Greg Garrett. We're excited to have you with us on tonight.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Welcome to the show.
Glad to be here with you guys, just hanging out. I wish we were in the same studio, but this is about as good as we can get right now.
Yes, sir. We got to make
do what we got. Want to get back in the basketball gym with you one day.
I'm ready to go, man.
Hold on. Time out. Let me find out. You got game?
Oh, yeah. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the things that he does that nobody sees, but I know what you do.
Okay.
I do have white man's disease. I can't jump, but I can set picks.
Okay.
I can't dribble. I can't rebound. I have no jumps. I have no ups, but I can set picks, and every now and then my three will go in, back to back.
And let me add on to that introduction. If you don't know, now you know. We have Real Estate Mogul in our 757-804 area code. I mean, he's all over the place. I mean, I see Greg Garrett signs in Hampton, Newport News, Chesapeake, Norfolk, Virginia Beach. Everywhere I go, I'm seeing Greg Garrett Realty signs. Over 35 years, I believe, in business in our area. Somebody who really understands what real estate is and the importance that it brings to our economy and how the development is. And we're going to get into a lot of things today, but I want you to start a little bit by letting our viewers know a little bit about who you are and how you ended up being into real estate the way you are.
Well, a lot of times people assume that, when you're a well-known name that you've always been that. It's just like if you're an accomplished person, they figured that it's just always been that way. What people do not know about me is I got arrested the first time when I was 11. Went to court for multiple grand larcenies at 15. My last arrest was when I was 19, which was assault on a police officer. And so while I had a mixed childhood and mixed teenage years, even though I had two parents and middle-class family, I should have done a lot better than I did. But at the same time, I was ambitious, rambunctious, half crazy, and just did what I wanted to do, and rebellious. And so wrong direction most of the time. Most of my leadership was taking my friends and people that looked up to me in the wrong direction, fighting, scrapping, probably had 100 fist fights. Wow. And, growing up, I can't ever remember not fighting. I had stitches in my head 10 times by the time I was 12, wow. From golf clubs, baseball bats, billy clubs, you name it. And it's just, it's a mixed childhood. But really, I got in the real estate business after 1 year of college when my dad died when I was 19 years old, and just tried to outwork the other guys. So my competitiveness that used to be fighting and scrapping and stealing and whatever else I was doing, my competitiveness shifted over to doing something productive. And it's just when I look at young men and young women today that are in trouble, and the kids that we help down in El Salvador and Honduras that are MS-13 that we look at as the worst of the worst of the worst, I see myself and I don't see somebody that is, cannot be helped. I don't see somebody, sorry about that. I don't see somebody that, that is gone too far, because I don't think any of us really go too far. I think any of us can come back, and the Lord can get a hold of us, and morality and just a desire to do something with your life can take over, and you can change. And so I started off at 19 in the real estate business, kept going. I planned on going back to college, but I never did. And just kept going, kept buying houses, built, starting companies, remodeling houses, and doing things that were, innovative. And all of a sudden, I hired an assistant, and then I became the #1 agent in the marketplace. By the time I was 25, I opened up a company at 26. I didn't know what I was doing, failed, fumbled, bumbled all around, and then the company started growing. Tax law 86 just, came around. I just about went bankrupt and kept going.
Tax law 86, what's that?
The Tax Reform Act under President Ronald Reagan of 1986.
Okay.
That's what took the S&Ls out of business. The S&L, the entire savings and loan industry collapsed. Well, real estate people, real estate developers, collapsed along with it. And I just about collapsed, but somehow by the skin of my teeth, with 3 kids and a wife, hung on and kept going. And then the meltdown of 2007 that lasted until 2014-ish in the 757 area. It lasted a lot longer here than most of the rest of the country. Our country was behind Detroit and everywhere else coming back. We were last place. And so that just about, that got me back in trouble again. So things happen, you got problems, but at the same time, people perceive me to be a leader in the marketplace. And I appreciate that. But it's really about trying to do the right thing and trying to work harder and take care of people, from employees to clients to customers to the community. And all of a sudden, we're a company that is 150 people strong and, spanning all over Hampton Roads and everywhere east of Richmond, from the Potomac River down to the Carolina line.
So why real estate at that young age? Like, what really was the determining thing to make you say, I don't want to be anything else, I want to do real estate?
I was always ambitious. And, when I saw people with 50, 60, 100-foot yachts, I said, I want one of those,
Yeah.
When I saw people with a big house on the water, I said, I want one of those. Those things are a whole lot less important. Those material things that are a lot less important to me now. I've had a lot of things, and they don't fulfill you like investing in people fulfill you, like helping people fulfill you. One of the guys, I just found out 2 hours ago that one of the guys that I worked with and supported in a minor way and talked to about every week while he was in jail for just overdosed Wednesday morning and died. And so I just, so that those kinds of things are disappointing, but being able to invest in people and you see their lives turn around. There are a lot of other stories of people that I've been involved in their life, and they've turned their life around. Good things have happened. And so when I saw those material things, they motivated me when I was a kid. Again, I'm a middle-class family. We weren't poor, but we weren't rich. And so my father was a small-time real estate developer and real estate broker. His office was on Pembroke Avenue across from the old Lincoln Park, the high-rise, what we call the high-rise in Hampton growing up. Mm-hmm. He had a 360 square foot office. Now that's tiny, right? That's 30 feet long by 12 feet wide. I mean, now we sell houses with master bedrooms bigger than 360 square feet. And his real estate office was 360 square feet. And my mom worked for him. He got ill with cancer. And so he had friends that were lawyers and business people. And I'd always wanted to be a lawyer. So we're talking about, why I got in the real estate business. My dad got cancer when I was 17, died when I was 19. And his last wish for me before I died was to help my mother in the real estate business, because we didn't have insurance. Our family was pretty much broke at the time of his passing, and he was in the VA hospital. We couldn't afford to be in a regular private hospital, but he had served in World War II, so he was in the VA hospital. And so upon his request to help my mother for a year, I didn't promise him I was going to be in the real estate business long term. I still planned on going back to college and then going to law school, but instead I spent 1 year helping my mom, 13 months, to fulfill that commitment I made to my dad. Working for my mom drove me crazy. I was her son when somebody threw up on the office carpet, but I was a real estate agent when it came to just getting paid. I got paid the least that she could pay me, but I had to do but if it was cold, I needed to start her car before she left the office to get the ice off of it, But just working for mom it just drove me crazy. So after 13 months, I went in with some other guys, went on my own, and the rest is history. Just kept going and going and working and ups and downs. But that's why I got in the real estate business. It's just, I always wanted to be I always thought I would be a lawyer, come back to Hampton, Newport News and set up a law practice. But instead ended up being successful in that first year of the real estate business. So I kept going instead of going back to college.
Well, a lot of people here in the area and beyond know Greg Garrett, the real estate agent, the one who's been doing so many great things in your field of work. However, some people know the Greg Garrett behind the scenes, the work that you do. For instance, as we were talking earlier, when you had the basketball court that you would open up at night for young people to be able to come in and get off the street and have something constructive to do, and you were actually out there playing with them. Not just opening the gym up and sitting back doing business deals. You were out there playing with them. You go to other countries, and you just don't go to other countries and put your feet up on the beach. You go in and you get to work. You're in some of the toughest environments when I see you going out to some of these other countries working with young people. The boards that you serve on, all pretty much throughout the years, have been youth influence boards, and how you can make an impact through some of those, there's an organization, a foundation that's working to empower young people. You have a heart for the young people. You have a heart for the people. Can you talk a little bit about what got you into a place where you wanted to give back? Because a lot of people talk about they want to give back, they want to do this, they want to do that, but you are actually doing it. Some of the programs that you have implemented. Can you talk a little bit about where that side came from?
Well, B2, I think if we're honest with ourselves, no matter what level of success or education that we find ourselves, we realize we're just a kid that grew up to be a teenager, that grew up to be a man or a woman, and we've got all the faults and fallacies and issues that we carry with us. And sometimes some people would rather hide that and try to hide behind education or dressing nice or driving a fancy car or living in a nice house or moving up to a better and better and better neighborhood. But if we're true with ourselves, we are all the same. We all have the potential to do right or wrong. Most of us have chosen to do wrong at certain periods of our life. And I look back at my life, and I look back at the people that invested in me in spite of me doing a ton of stuff wrong. My high school principal, who happened to be an African-American, I think he was the first African-American principal in the Hampton school system, head principal, and he was kind of like a black daddy to me. Jesse Radley, when I was a young real estate agent. Jesse must not have known I lived in Hampton at the time, but my office was in Newport News, and she put me on her cabinet. I was on Jesse Radley's cabinet, man. That was cool. I was the drug czar, meaning I was the guy that was trying to figure out how we're going to solve the drug problems of Newport News back in the 80s. And so tons of people, black, white, men, women, gave me opportunities to do things. There was a guy named Gilly Gillette who gave me credit when I was 16 years old. I started a tree cutting business and hired kids out of my high school. And Gilly Gillette, I could walk in there and buy a $300 or $400 chainsaw, walk out with it. I didn't sign anything, and he knew like $20 or $30 a week cutting wood until I got it paid for. And so there's a lot of people that invested in me. And even though I was a bad kid, I was good and bad. We're all a mixture. And so I don't look at me as being the Greg Garrett that some people might see, that's all powerful, rich, or successful. I still realize I'm that kid that was breaking and entering in boats and cars, and that stood before Judge Durden when I was 15 years old for him to decide whether I was going to go to reform school or not. right? I was the kid that stole my grandmother's car at 11 and was joyriding at 2 o'clock in the morning when the police pulled me over at 11 years old.
That's crazy.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I realized, I mean, that's not who I am today, but that's where I came from. And somehow with God's help, you know, I've been able to have a good life, and my life is better and better, and it's lots of great things happening. But I don't believe that God put me here to become wealthy or to become prominent or to become influential or whatever those things are for myself. I believe that that's a gift from God that is to be multiplied, and that I have a distinct responsibility to go back to people that remind me of me. Bad kids, people that we would call bad kids, people that are getting in trouble, people that are doing stuff they shouldn't be doing, you know, and to help them to realize there is a future. They can carve out a life. There is a way to do better. There is a way to overcome your obstacles. There is a way to not buy into the parental the inheritance that you've gotten in your family lineage. I mean, everybody I ever met on the Garrett side of my family was an alcoholic until my brother took it to the next level and died as a drug addict, right? My only brother, my only sibling. And so that doesn't mean I've got to be an alcoholic, but how am I not going to be an alcoholic? Well, starting with not drinking, right? I mean, that's a great start when you know you got that kind of lineage, that you've inherited. And so to help people realize you're not dictated by your past, by your parents, by your neighborhood, by your problems, by your convictions, by the things that you've done. And that does not dictate who you are. It only says where you've been. And I feel like I got a responsibility to go back in and help people realize you can overcome your past, your problems, and do something with your life and make something of yourself, but not just so that you can be prominent or wealthy or a big shot or rich or drive a nice car or live in a nice house, but so you can pour back into your family, your community, and even possibly some other part of the country or the world, like I've been privileged to do, to actually take your story and your treasure and put it in other places in a way that's going to make a difference.
Right. And go ahead.
No, see, that's what I love about your spirit, because you're relatable to everybody. We talk about those times, you know, you had late night gym, opening gyms for guys to come in and play basketball. There's all kind of guys that will come in there and play. Guys from off the street, guys that are deacons of the church, they will all be in there interacting, you right there in the middle of conducting the whole, how everybody was maneuvering in the gym. And then what got me the time that I came is that you stopped everybody from like halfway in and said, y'all come here, B2's gonna give us a sermon. But that's what you do, and that's the spirit I love about you, because you can bring people from all different environments, different socioeconomic statuses, and bring them together and give them that level of love that some people don't get.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And your point of view is a humbled point of view, and I totally understand it, because, you know, I had a brief moment in my life where I was lost early on, 18, 19, 17 years old, trying to figure it out right around that high school time, and I was throwing rocks at the penitentiary, and I had a couple of people and a couple of opportunities to change and pivot and shift directions before I went too far one way or another. And the same way, I'm 47 now, and in the same way that happened to me 17, 18, 19, and then I realized that those brief moments, those quick decisions, those bad choices at certain moments, just in a couple of years here and there, that could have changed my life or ended my life. And that's why I always have the perspective is I'm no different than anyone else, you know, and with that, that is something, a big driving force behind me and why I do so much and go so hard, because I don't separate myself in any kind of way. I see myself in other people in the same way. So I totally understand that humble point of view that you have. And to add on to that, what B was saying with the diversity level, like he was saying with the people that come in the gym, from the time that I met you a few years back till now, you know, if anyone ever has questions for me about what I think about Mr. Garrett, Mr. Greg Garrett, double G, I like to call him. I always say, you know, it's down to earth person is where I start, number one. And like you say, you can't fake that. You know, very genuine, very authentic. And with that being said, I do know that you have a plan for diversity for your business and even for the community. Would you like to speak a little bit on that?
Yeah, and one of the biggest compliments I get when we run this basketball program for about 12 years. Of course, we haven't played in a year, and it's killing me, man, not to get out there with the guys.
Yeah.
I just wrote a letter of recommendation for one of the guys that's in the Army, and he's gotten into a little bit of trouble. And I just wrote it last week and sent it to one of the guys. I hadn't heard from him in 2 years, but he's in the Army and he's trying to stay in right now. But one of the biggest compliments I get, and this would happen about every 6 months or so, one of the young guys that would been there for maybe a few months or maybe a year, they would come up to me and say, because they always called me G. That's all they called me out there on a basketball court. They'd say, G, you're Greg Garrett. You're Greg Garrett. I can't believe it, G. I thought you were just G. You're Greg Garrett. You're Greg Garrett. G, you're Greg Garrett. How you get to be Greg Garrett, man? How can I be Greg Garrett?
How did you get to be Greg?
And these are guys. I'm 60 years old, right? I'm out there playing with these guys. They're 17, maybe 27, maybe they might be 30. 35. Yeah. And it's like they accept me. It's beautiful that they accept me in their world. I mean, I don't always get picked last. I mean, that's a huge compliment when I get picked next to last or next to last, because I set picks for the guys. Some of them want me on their team,
Yeah.
But they'll come to me and say, Gee, you're Greg Garrett. And then they'll say, I can't believe it. I can't believe it. And I'll say, no. I said, I'm just G. But it's interesting that the other guys had never said anything to this person. He'd been there for months, and there was never a conversation between the guys of who's this old white guy that's out here still playing with us. They just accepted me, man. And so that to me is very, very cool in terms of, you say it's great that a B2, you're saying, hey, it's great that I accept them, but I think it's beautiful that they accept me, right? Because I don't represent somebody that they can necessarily trust, or somebody that they would assume cares about them, or somebody that would be any part of their world necessarily. And so the fact that they accept me, I think is beautiful. And these guys keep me young. These guys teach me things that I cannot learn from my technical peers in the industry, my professional peers that are closer to my age. And so it's really it's a beautiful thing. But you ask, Markeith, about my plan for diversity in the company. And so there's one of the problems in many professional careers, and one of the problems in many professional organizations, they're dominated by Caucasians, and in like the CEO groups that I'm a part of, they're dominated by white males. I started a group called Entrepreneurs Organization in 2000. It's an international organization, and I started the Southeastern Virginia chapter. I was the founding president of that. And this organization now does have a few women in it, that has a few minorities in it, but it's 65 people, and probably 51, 2, 3 of the 65 are white males. I started an organization called a Virginia chapter of the Young Presidents Organization. Young Presidents Organizations are CEOs that have reached a certain level of 50 employees and a pretty high revenue level. And by the time they're 45 years old, almost. There's a couple of Indian guys. I think there might be, there's one Asian, and 2 or out of the 45 or 50 guys, I think there are 2 African-American males in that group. and a couple of two guys from Puerto Rico that are Puerto Rican and from Puerto Rico in the group as well. But for the most part, the domination of white males and the domination in the real estate industry of white male and females, right? It's not in the real estate industry, the women came through. Like my mother was a pioneer in the real estate business starting in 1965. And so but still it's dominated way too much by Caucasians. And so there have to be some underlying factors and reasons for that shouldn't be there. And so I feel I have a responsibility for my company to reflect what the community looks like as much as possible. And so if our community is 35 or 40% African American, when you look at the 757-804 Hampton Roads, an extended area, if we're 35-ish% African American, then why is the real estate business 5, 6, 7, 8, less than 10% African American? Why is my company only 12 or 15% African American, right? So we're better, but better isn't good enough. My objective is for our company to reflect what the community looks like, and so we're doing things to attempt to try to do that. In terms of like one of the things that we're doing is recruiting heavily from the military, because one of the things the military has done all the way back to the 60s, and again, no system is perfect, but all the way back to the 60s, the military got serious about what we called then integration. And there were leadership tracks in the 70s for African Americans to become generals, to become officers, there were things, and the military was very early to recognize that we're all the same, and it should not be dominated by one race, one gender in the military. And we're going to be better, stronger, tougher, and more dominant if we as Americans come together and ignore, our skin colors, ignore our genders. But there have to be intentional ways to do it. It's not going to happen naturally just because you have a realization that, we're all the same. There's still fundamental things that have been in place that have allowed white males to dominate for a very long time. And it's not that white males cannot be successful. It's not that I don't want to hire white males. I'm going to keep hiring white males, but I'm going to be very intentional about hiring non-white males and try to help people get to places that historically they have not been before at a high enough percentage in terms of how it compares to the community.
Right. And you've been one of the spearheads when it comes to leaders in our area, business leaders in our area, when it comes to that diversity piece and inclusion of all types of people that could have positions in your company, in your organization. Looking and moving forward, with you and all of the years of work you put in and to establish the brand of Double G Realty, that's a recognizable name. What do you want to see within the next 10 years for this area, from the work that you're doing with the realty and the work that you're doing in the community? What is something that you would want to see for the Newport News area when you envision the next 10 years?
Well, when I look at the Newport News area, I'm looking at all of Hampton Roads, and potentially even for our company going out to Richmond, which we're not there yet. But our headquarters is Newport News, and we have no reason to think it would not remain in Newport News even as we continue to grow. I believe that I want to be a part of bringing the mega region together. I want to be a part of bringing Richmond to the oceanfront Virginia Beach together. And if we're successful at doing that, which is lots of business leaders in Richmond, all the way to Virginia Beach that want to do that, Newport News is going to disproportionately benefit from that, because Newport News is in the middle. When you look at what connects Richmond and Virginia Beach, Norfolk together, well, it's Newport News, Williamsburg, Hampton, right? These are the cities that are right here in the middle where corporate headquarters like Ferguson can be, right? And so there's other things that can happen out of this mega region that's disproportionately going to benefit our part of Virginia here in Newport News, Hampton, and the surrounding area of Newport News and Hampton. And I want to be a part of that, but I want to make sure we're doing it in a way that is including everybody. And so when I was part of the task force for trying to figure out what are we going to name ourselves, the one more time, we're trying to figure out what to name ourselves as the Hampton Roads Coastal Virginia community, and we came up with 757. In one of the very first meetings, I stood up in this room of 70, 80 people that were almost all white, almost all over 50, and said, there's a problem. I'm 60 years old, white male. I'm in a room full of 50, 60, 70, 80-year-old Caucasians for the most part. There certainly were African Americans in the room. There certainly were ladies in the room. And I'm talking about, accomplished people of color and accomplished people that were women, but nowhere near enough. It was probably 80% white males in the room, 75% white males in the room. And so as a white man, I'm standing up and saying that we have to fix this. We have to fix this. We cannot figure out who we are if we're the ones, we meaning us white men primarily, are trying to decide this. We're missing an element that is crucial to our growth, our longevity, our stability. We cannot, it's not a white, we cannot be or be perceived to be or act like it's a white male dominated society anymore. We need all of us to benefit in the growth. We need all of us to figure out who we are. And we need a buy-in from all of us to be able to have the kind of inclusion that's necessary and to try to kill the division that's been the things that have been dividing us as Republicans, Democrats, Norfolk, Virginia Beach, Hampton, Newport News. We've got all these things that divide us, right? It's college educated, high school dropouts. But we need to figure out how we're going to come together, and we've got to figure out how our boardrooms, our organizations come together. Back in there was a I won't mention it by name but there was an exclusive club. Social club in our community that was all white back in the 80s. And it was the time that Governor Wilder was about to run for governor. And I resigned from that club because I sent a letter in saying, why do we have an unwritten rule that would exclude a man that is the likely candidate for one of the two major parties in Virginia that could become our governor? A man has reached that level in Virginia, and we have an unwritten rule. I realize it's unwritten, but we must have an unwritten rule because we don't have a single person of color in the club. I resigned from the club, right? That was back in the 80s. And so. And
what kind of response did you get from that?
No response.
No, I figured that. Yeah.
No response.
Not going to acknowledge that. Not going to acknowledge that.
Right.
No and as far as when you stood up in that room and you have that diversity conversation with your colleagues, are you still feeling that same tension, that same pushback?
No, it's changing. Here's what is said now. Here's what's said now. And I understand the sincerity behind what is being said now. What is said now is we cannot find them. The word them always bothers me. It bothers non-white males probably worse than it bothers me. But I'm with it to understand when anybody says them, it bothers me now, right?
Right.
Because I don't want to be part of the people that are identifying anybody as them or they.
Right.
I don't want to be connected to that because it's us, right? And so, but there is a definite sincerity in the room that says, yes, I want to do that. Yes, I wish they were here. We ccannot find them. And I'm saying that's not good enough. We must find them. If we're business people, and we need to find them in the faith community. If we're real estate guys, and we need to find them in the music community, right? We need to figure out if we're straight, and we need to find them in the gay community. Whatever, we need to figure out how to find them or they that aren't here.
And just to be clear, you're saying to find real estate, aspiring real estate agents who want this opportunity.
No. I'm talking about business in general. I'm talking about community leaders in general, business leaders in general. We have to figure out how to find people to create inclusion. We have to be intentional about inclusion.
Yeah, they have seats at the table as well.
Right. And so, like, I've just been made the president of the Greater Peninsula Now organization, which is an organization business, of community leaders, CEOs of the biggest corporations on the Virginia Peninsula, and it's an honor. I mean, it's a real honor. But why have I gotten that position? I believe I've gotten that position because the organization needs to figure out once and for all how to bring in younger leaders, because almost everybody in the room is over 50 years old. How are we going to bring in younger leaders? How are we going to develop younger leaders? How are we going to develop non-white leaders? How are we going to develop female leaders? How are we going to recognize, African-American, female, Asian, Indian leaders, because they exist. They're in our community. And maybe they haven't reached the level of running a 10,000 person organization, right? Maybe they're not running a hospital system. Maybe they're not running a shipyard, although we do have a female running a shipyard, right? And we do have a non-white running one of the biggest hospital systems now. I just had lunch with him last week, a gentleman in his 40s. And so, we do have, running our colleges. We do have non-whites running our colleges. Some of them are younger now. And so we do have that happening. Of course, it's a Virginia Peninsula organization. So the new CEO, the new president of Old Dominion University, that's another breakthrough that just happened. So we have those people, and we need to figure out how to bring them into the room and how to develop the next leaders that aren't developed or that aren't recognized yet. Help to train them and to bring people into the room so that we don't look around the room and 9 out of 10 are white males, or even 8 out of 10 are Caucasians.
Absolutely. And everything you're saying right now is a big part of the reason why we have stayed connected since I met you, is because the understanding of the power of collective and the diversity is all about what we do here. This platform was created to identify who we call our community warriors. And our community warriors are simply our active parents, our teachers, our coaches, our leadership, those who have programs, resources, and support that the community needs to know about. And I met you at a community event dealing with the community, and we've continued on with that because you're true to that. Like I said, again, the authenticity of what you do and how people gravitate towards you because they can really feel that it's real. You're not putting on for this camera. Anybody that knows you, had a conversation with you, know you're like this 24/7. So,
I hope so.
Yeah, so it's easy to let it flow. When people hear this, I want them to know that this is all natural. This is not just for the video. This is how it really is. And we appreciate you being one of the community warriors in our area, and we continue to support what you do, and we continue to help in any way that we can with our platform and any other services that we can offer as well. B, you have anything you want to say before we wrap this call?
Just like you said, he's Double G, always been genuine in all of his interactions. One of the things I'll never forget, I don't know if I had a chance to tell you this privately, but I'm going to tell you publicly. I'll never forget the time when my pops he just got out of the hospital, and, he was having some health challenges. And we were just sitting around the house. This was pre-COVID, obviously, a few years ago. And this car pulls up, nothing fancy, nothing that you would think for somebody in with the status of G double here, but Mr. Garrett walks out and comes up to the door and just says he wanted to come and hang out with my pops and see how he was doing, checking in. Completely unexpected, completely. I don't know if it was something arbitrarily he was just driving through the neighborhood or what. But it's still because of who he is. And my pops still remembers that to this day. Those people came to visit him, and he often asked about him. And anybody who my pops asks about, I know he has much love in his heart for that individual. So, and if he got love for you, I got my crazy love for you.
Well, I love your pops. Your pops allowed me to help him and to get that house. And I was excited about that. It's a great neighborhood, nice house, and I just wanted to stop by and see him, and it was an honor to do that. So thanks for saying that, and he knows I love him.
I most definitely will. I'll tell him that I talk to you tonight. He's gonna be excited.
There's one more thing, if we have time, I want to mention.
Yeah.
When we look at economic development and bringing in jobs and bringing in more companies to come to our area to grow and diversify our economy beyond just Department of Defense military spending, we're missing something that is huge, in my opinion, and nobody has grabbed a hold of this. And I keep saying it and saying it and saying it in different situations as I've been involved in economic development, workforce development boards, and those kinds of things. There are plenty of companies in America that are in marketplaces that are not near as diverse as we are. Marketplaces that are 80, 90% Caucasian, and that do not have the mixture of the cultures like we do. A lot of those companies are recognizing that they need to diversify their workforce to be more inclusive and more like the rest of the United States. But as those companies expand, as those companies grow, I believe that we should present ourselves in the 757 community. We should present ourselves as a place where companies can come, set up shop, and without having to relocate people in, hire a very diverse, very powerful, very educated, hardworking, honest workforce of all shapes and colors and sizes here in 757. The diversity that we have here, the talent pool that we have here, the education level, the lack of crime in general compared to a lot of other areas that are diverse, the low cost of housing. But those are factors that are significant. But the fact that they can come here and they can hire a workforce that might be 50% non-white, that are hardworking, possibly retired military or former military people that for their companies, highly motivated, hardworking people with morals and values that would be indicative of what the type of people that a company would want to hire. They don't have to go far. They can do that if they will open up plants and facilities and offices here in the 757 community, which would diversify their workforce if they're coming from communities that are 80, 90% Caucasian. And I think that's something in our workforce development that we've never touted, that we've never shouted from the rooftops. Say, come, if you want diversity in your company, come here. We have the diverse workforce ready for your company to grow and to become a better company, because the more diverse you are, I believe the better you're going to be.
So as we wrap this, we know it's all about finding talent, helping develop leadership, also attaching purpose to what you do. Like you said, you couldn't get enough materials to satisfy, all of your material wants. But, when it comes to investing in people, I think that was the biggest thing I got out of all of this. Investing in people is the biggest reward. And we do appreciate the fact that you are investing in the people that we have here. So, I just want to say, Double G, Greg Garrett, you are in the mix. Welcome to the show. We in the mix with B2 and Markeith, straight out of Virginia. And this is the platform for the people.